So similar, you had to kind of leave.
It was like I had to leave. I didn't want to leave, but I had to leave.
Had to leave.
Yeah.
But I wanted to leave Florida.
More!
Lunch break! This video is sponsored by Squarespace. From websites to online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence. Hi guys, welcome to Lunch Break, your favorite Thursday show, or should I say lunch date?
Lunch date. We haven't had a lunch date in a while.
In a while.
Yeah. And our plus one for today's lunch break is David Yao. Thanks for joining, and thanks for recommending Chinese Taiwanese food.
Woo! Exciting! I got minced pork rice.
Oh, you got minced pork rice.
Yeah.
And you got some like.
Oh, I got a soup. Yes.
Yeah, the thick soup, Taiwanese.
Thick.
I got minced pork rice with extra pickle
Matching.
greens, and I also got some sticky rice.
Chris, one thing that we have in common, I feel, that a lot of people talk about in the office is we're not from California.
Yeah.
You're originally from Florida.
Yeah.
And then moved to Boston.
Yep.
And then moved again to LA.
To LA, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're essentially the only two people not from California. But I'm usually the butt of the joke because I'm from the great state of Florida.
Florida has a great reputation.
Has a great reputation.
And I'm originally from like Chicago suburbs area. But how would you say moving from state to state was? You moved to Boston for college?
For college. I mean, I spent actually a few years in my childhood in Boston.
Oh.
Because I was born there. Because my dad was still doing his doctorate in Boston. You know, I came along, my brother came along. And then we eventually moved down to Florida just because I think cost of living in general was definitely lower. It wasn't like overly saturated. I think because my dad was an orthodontist, so the dental industry was less saturated in Florida, so it was a good place to kind of go down. Weather was nicer. I grew up in Florida, and then I went to back up to Boston for college. I would say that transition wasn't too bad because I visited Boston a number of times. I'm a Sox fan, as you can clearly tell. Like I had a certain level of familiarity. I really wanted to get out of the state of Florida, so Boston was the best choice. It's a college town.
Yeah.
And it was a big school. I went to a big school. I think it was less of a
Big jump.
a jump or a curve for like getting used to that. How about you?
Well, I like mostly lived in like my suburb, and I moved to Urbana-Champaign for college. So I wasn't really like leaving the state of Illinois up until I moved here. And I think it was like a bigger jump because I guess like I stayed in my home state for a longer time, like basically 22 years of my life, right? I didn't really know anyone in LA. I didn't have a lot of family there or any family at all until I moved here actually.
No family.
No family. It was just a lot scary because like in college, if you're moving states to college, at least you have that assurance that you will meet people and like there will be a community.
Yeah.
But moving after college is a lot scarier because there's no like foundation, I guess, to build. Whereas in college, you can build a foundation.
That's definitely something like the people in the office, and I try not to rub it in, but the fact that they kind of never left their comfort zone. And a lot of times like people who go to, even to say if they're from out of state, but you're working in the city that you went to college in, you already have that
Like a foundation.
That base, because it is, like, you know, a lot of times when you go to college, you know, freshman year, sophomore year, you're making a lot of friends. But when you come out, if you move to a new place after college, it's like you have to completely start from the ground up. And usually like the first place you're gonna meet friends are literally, hopefully if you work at a medium-sized company or a small-sized company, you'll be able to, you know, have friends. And I think that was like one of the nice things about, you know, being at Wong Fu is that we're a small company. So, you know, we tend to be also friends, you know, we are friends.
Yeah.
We are friends with, you know, our coworkers.
You also moved here like after Boston and not as like firm of a foundation as like Boston.
Yeah.
So how do you think that was? You moved here, did you move here to pursue the arts and your dreams?
Yeah, I think it was less so about the city and less so about, because I also had family in Los Angeles. I was already familiar with LA geographically and like the space and the various neighborhoods and whatnot. But I think having no one in the industry, I think that already creates a certain level of, like, I guess, anxiety when you move to a new place, especially because LA is, you know, film and entertainment is the capital. I was definitely nervous or anxious, but I also felt like I had a certain level of coming out of school, made some short films and stuff like the student films and whatnot. I had a certain level of ego. And so the ego kind of was like, these are like my, you know, my blinders. I felt like, oh yeah, I'm a big shot, you know, blah, blah, blah. Very quickly, I was like, oh, not so much. And then you start developing the sense like, oh, can I even succeed? You know, can I even, not even succeed, can I survive?
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people who enter this industry, especially if you're moving to California, moving to LA, or even people who are moving to New York, you go in with certain expectations and at the end of the day, like there's so many of us. It's always like a constant struggle. I was familiar because of having some base here, but having no connections, that part was very scary.
That's what comes with being in a state or a city that's not very film oriented, right? Like I don't know about Boston. I'm assuming like Boston's pretty much like, you know, accounting, like all the business, because like Chicago's like that business industry, you know, like accounting and all that stuff.
Yeah, Boston was is like, so you have the biotech, you have academics is huge because you have all the schools, so academia you could go into teaching. There is some documentary work that was pretty sizable in that area, but if you wanted to do like bigger stuff, you would have to go to other markets. I wouldn't say it's a small market. I would say Chicago has a pretty strong like advertising world.
Yes.
So like in certain aspects, there's like a big market for that. But if you want to go into, you know, media and stuff like that, you have to either go down to New York or go all the way out to LA. I feel proud of us for doing that.
I don't know about you, but I had, after I moved here, like pursuing the dream. I had a lot of friends and family be like, it's very inspirational that you did that because not a lot of people move from something they know to like pursue a passion, especially because we did move from out of state, you know, literally across the country.
Across the country, yeah.
That like makes me feel really good because it kind of like shows that people, you can be from anywhere and pursue anything you want as long as you're not afraid to break that chain that's holding you down in whatever state you are. But do you think that moving from Boston to LA, like there was like a cultural shift?
Yeah, definitely a cultural shift. Culture shift in a lot of things, like Boston is a very intellectual city.
Are you saying?
Yeah, very intellectual, It's an intellectual city, you know, you're surrounded by some like big schools, not big schools, but prestigious schools.
I feel like you could be a professor.
Yeah, maybe we should all do part-time work teaching at like UCLA.
I think only you could just teach because you have so much knowledge.
But I don't have a lot of patience. I don't have a lot of patience with people who ask dumb questions.
I thought you were gonna say, I don't have patience with dumb people. And then you paused and then you reworded.
When they ask dumb questions, it's like no, I hate it when it's like questions I can't really respond because they're not even properly. They're not asking me something. You know, they're just throw that shit on the wall. It's also an old city. It's also a walkable city.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then or if not public transit. So going from that to LA, LA has those stereotypes. You have sometimes some people are fake or just everybody's kind of chasing that that dream. And then LA itself is very big and not walking friendly. It's a much newer city than Boston. So there's definitely a shift in that. But I would say like the nice thing is that, you know, because I grew up in a not so diverse community in Florida. So Boston was very diverse and then going out to LA was diverse. So there wasn't too big of a gap. I know that some people who if you grow up in like Midwest and then you go, like if you grew up in Kansas or Oklahoma and then you move to LA, it could be a huge culture shift.
Yeah, I think like when I first moved here, I knew that at least for like females, there's the beauty standards are different here. So I remember right before I was moving here, but I knew I was gonna move here, I was like, man, I gotta change everything up. Like the beauty standards there are really high. You know, I gotta start wearing makeup more, you know, and like again, public transport, because like I also lived in the city for a while. Public transport's not very reliable, and also driving. I used to always go by the rule of thumb of like 1 mile takes like 1 minute to get there.
Yeah.
And here it's like to go like 1 mile takes like 5 minutes.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, kind of crazy. I was told about like, you know, there could be like the fake personalities or fake people here. I think in LA it's just there's so many networking things in the culture and everyone wants to pursue either film or being that influencer or like the YouTuber that I think people just are a little bit more jaded where their walls are up. So it does take a while to get to know someone because, at least for me in the Midwest, it was really easy for me to get to know people. I would meet someone and then like I'll have lunch or dinner with them once or twice, and then I'll just, after like 2 weeks maybe of consistently like hanging out, we'll be like best friends, tell like our darkest secrets to each other kind of thing. And so when I moved here, I was used to that, and I would hang out with people. But then, you know, after I hung out with them the next time, it felt like we didn't really evolve our friendship. So that was really hard for me to get around.
I would just say, like, we are not only outsiders, you know, to LA, but we're also, and from a completely different place, but we're also taking a stab at an industry that is like survival of the fittest. You know, you have to really put yourself out there. So I think I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, I'm proud of you too.
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to elicit that response, and I got it. But yeah, I'm really proud of you.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, this is not an easy thing.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break to thank our sponsor, Squarespace. We like their video blocks feature because it allows us to drag and drop any videos we want to share to anyone who stops by. It makes sense because we're a video production company. To learn more, visit squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready, use our promo code WONGFU for 10% off your first purchase on your website or domain. Can't wait to see what you make. Now let's get back to lunch break. So we have some Patreon questions that we're going to answer right here. So Christina Garcia asked, how did your families feel about you moving so far away from them? And were they supportive when you first told them?
I think they were supportive, but obviously in their hearts they were like, oh, I wish you didn't have to go so far. But I think they also were aware that I wanted to be in the industry, and so the only place to really, not really the only place, but if you want to have a really good footing, you really need to be out in Los Angeles. So in that regard, they were very supportive. I think they also kind of made kind of like an objective or a goal, like, hey, you know, in 6 months or in 10 months, if you don't get further along, I think you should come back, regroup, and then if you want to make that jump again, make that jump again. So
Wow.
I would say, like, growing up, not so much, but I think as
Prove yourself.
Yeah, prove myself. Even in high school, they were like, oh, okay, so this might be your thing. So, you know, you go out and go and pursue that. So I think they were generally supportive, and they knew that I had family here. My grandparents were living here, so I could, you know, visit them. So that wasn't too bad.
I think my dad wanted me to just try things, like experience things, and if
But
I
your
had,
mom, not so much.
my mom was like, even if right now she's like okay with it, because I told them separately, and my mom was like, well, I told them separately because I knew how one would answer and how the other would answer.
Okay.
Right? So I told my dad first because I figured he would be more encouraging, which he was, because in his head it's like, oh, if you have something you like, you might as well try it. And then he told my mom, and then my mom called me, and my mom was like, what are you gonna do? Like, financially, you probably won't be able to, you know, unless we help you, you know, all these like doubts. And stuff. And in the beginning, like the choices that I made for like my education and stuff, like I was in creative writing, all this stuff is something that is very foreign to them.
Yeah.
And they know, like my mom had a PhD in chemistry, and she knows all that stuff. And my dad was like in economics. So all this creative stuff was new to them.
Oh, they are very Taiwanese. Chemistry,
Apparently my
chemistry
dad,
and economics,
yeah,
very Taiwanese.
but apparently my dad's really good in literature, so he like had some, like he knew that side too. But
I think it's less doubt. I think it's more they were concerned.
they were concerned, yeah.
Because it's unfamiliar, and that maybe growing up they probably did like give you pointers here and there, but in this area they can't really help you out either if you were to struggle.
Yeah. And like my brother, you know, went into like a field that they expected, kind of medical-ish. And I think they were just more, like my mom was more concerned, like me moving out by myself and stuff. And then, you know, being a girl, you know, there's also that concern that my mom has a lot. But I think, you know, over time as like, I guess I did prove myself-ish. Because recently she has told me, she's like, I'm really proud of what you're doing, especially because like the film industry doesn't have like, not a lot of Asian minorities, but not a lot of like female too.
Yeah.
And so she feels really proud about that. And I think like about moving away. So my dad was already in Taiwan, so I don't think he cared that much, but my mom was, you know, she was concerned.
Yeah.
Again, the girl thing, you know, it's like, because I'm the youngest too. So I think for her it's a little more, it's harder to let go.
Yeah.
So I guess they were supportive.
Yeah, they were supportive, for sure.
Has the West Coast always been where you wanted to move after college? I guess for you,
Yeah, I think for sure. I don't know if I want to stay in LA just because it's so damn expensive.
Too hot for me.
Yeah, that's another thing. Growing up in Florida, I was always super excited to go out to like LA because it was like, oh yeah, it's not humid at all. But then the thing that bothers me about LA is the fact it never freaking rains. And I'm a person who likes rain, you know, and I like gloom. You know, I'm not saying like it should rain every day, but I feel like a few times a month, I think that would be nice.
Yeah, I want it to rain so my car can get washed.
Oh yeah, that too, because we're cheap. But
But rain is nice.
But yeah, rain is definitely nice. So that's why like out here, like if you say West Coast, like,
Seattle.
you know, Seattle and Portland where it rains a lot more, the air is cleaner. Also the rain cleans the air, right? So if I do actually really like the West Coast.
Yeah.
And so if it's not LA, probably be the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. I think for me, I didn't think about moving outside, wherever, like Illinois. I think, and then I realized, you know, what I wanted to do, passion career-wise. And then I was like, well, it seems like it's either New York or LA for me, because I was also like interested in publishing since I was a creative writer. But I was like, well, it has to be one of those two, because unfortunately, it's like the things I did want to do, Chicago didn't offer any of those.
Right?
I
see.
Or like it very little, right?
It was similar. You had to kind of leave.
It was like I had to leave. I didn't want to leave, but I had to leave.
Had to leave.
Yeah.
But I wanted to leave Florida. Not so. I wish my parents lived in LA and I grew up in LA and I said then I'd stay in LA. That's fine with me. But I wanted to get out of Florida.
Well, I guess we've run out of time for our lunch date. Thanks, Chris, for hanging out with me.
Yeah, thanks for. I think you suggested this. Yeah. So thanks for inviting me. I learned a little bit more about you.
Yeah, same. I feel like the original topic was like maybe we should just guess what foods we're picky with. But then I was like, man, everyone's gonna hate us for being so picky.
There's probably gonna hate you for saying, oh, you don't like these things. It's gonna hate me because I'm so judgmental. That actually could have been constructive too. But the comment section would be all over the place.
Yeah, the comment section would have been like, oh my god, they don't like mangoes.
Wow, Chris is such a. Yeah.
Maybe another time.
Maybe another time.
Next lunch date. But thank you for joining us on your Thursday.
And thanks to David Yao for being our +1. And if you want to also be a +1, you want to suggest what we eat, you know, be sure to join our Patreon page, One Foot Forward. We got some new items on narastar.com, and we're working with some new artists. I think you'll like them. Go check it out.
And with that, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.